Hello and welcome back to the channel. This one's gonna be a little bit shorter, I hope. But recently we left off with a slight issue with our media controller, because right now you can send basically any game ID and it will create an entry in our wonderful media folder. As you can see right here, there's a media and free, and in our database we are using UUIDs to identify games, and the UID is the primary key there. So we should write some kind of way to validate whether the ID is existing in our database. And that's a little tricky to achieve, to be honest, because as you can see right now, we are using basically the interceptor provided by NestJS and the Multer package to handle all of our file upload. And we would have to trigger some kind of logic before the interceptor to reject given requests if the ID doesn't exist in our database. Well, obviously we cannot do this in a controller function because, well, it's too late. So if I go to NestJS, or if maybe I can search for something like life cycle events. Okay. Okay, that's not really it. Application shutdown. Let's see, life cycle, request life cycle. Okay, so as you can find here in the FAQ, I don't know why that's here. There's a middleware, then there are guards, then interceptor, then pipes, then filters, and then server. This is controller method handler. So we are doing this here in the controller interceptors. So we have to use controller guards or route guards to somehow figure out the logic to reject the ID that's not correct. So, okay, let's go into our media folder, and here I'm gonna create media guard ds, and let's create a class, the media guard, and its job is gonna be to, as I mentioned, check for the correct ID where it exists in database. It has to implement can activate, and we'll export it. That's not what I wanted. Okay, so basically what we'd have to do is to use our game service to get the game by ID, and then, well, it will just tell us where it exists. So let's take a look at the game service. We have to add, sorry, let's do get by ID function, and that's gonna be taking ID string, and then we're gonna do game is gonna be await this game repo find one by ID, and return well, return game, of course. So that's fine. Let's go back here. So I could imagine our async can activate function. This is taking the context. That's the execution context. Basically allows us to receive the request. We have to switch to HTTP, and then that's a function, obviously, and then get request. Okay. And what we have to do is somehow get an access to game service, right? And we'll use dependency injection to get that. And normally what we should do is to use constructor, then say something like private game service, I believe we should use something like an inject. No, not really. Okay, that should be it. I can activate. So right now I could use this. I'll wait for that. Get by ID. And I'm gonna assume that this exists. Where does it exist? This is a game ID as a media param. Okay. Request params game ID. And you're not gonna get autocomplete here because request is of type any. Maybe we could, yeah, we could type it if we wanted to. Let's see, it takes T. Let's see, request, that's a decorator. Well, I'm not gonna do that because I don't know how, it would take a lot of time. But basically, if we're not getting anything here, there's no game, right? We should throw new not found exception error, or maybe bad request error. Bad request error would be better. Bad request exception. Game with, let's get it, game ID. So what we're basically doing is building the custom guard. Does not exist. And then return, because it has to return a boolean, and you can cast anything to boolean using double exclamation. So that is looking fine. Let's try and use it. So here, as a decorator, use guards, media guard. Okay, and okay, let's see whether that actually works. So let me go to Thunder client, and let's try to send something that doesn't make any sense. So like free, definitely not UUID. Cannot post, oh yeah, because the route is media. So that's the wrong route. Okay, cannot read property or get by ID of undefined. That's cool. So this is undefined for any reason. Is our constructor wrong? So let's try at inject game service. Okay, so that's the correct approach. We are now with that decorator saying our dependency injection engine to inject that dependency to our media guard class. But we have a problem. If game service is a provider, is it part of current module? If game service is exported from a separate module, is that module imported within media module? So we have to have our module a little bit. So here we can export game service, and then basically here I believe we should import media games module. Okay, let's try that again. Invalid input type syntax for type UUID 3. Okay, yeah, and this is a query fail error, meaning we are trying to query against a table in our database that is using UUID as a primary keys. And 3, of course, well, it doesn't match the UUID format, okay? So that's one problem we'll have there. But let's try and generate UUID4, and there's a generator for that. Let's copy. Let's try that. Oh yeah, there was an error. Okay, we didn't handle. Let's try that again. Okay, this, as you can see, this works correct. We have a proper status code, error, and message. What about the issue when the format isn't matching the UUID? Because this can happen, and if this can happen, it will happen. And your responsibility as a developer is to make your API really idiot-proof. Because believe me, if there's a possibility to crash your API by sending some kind of parameters or requests that doesn't make any sense from your perspective, there will be a client that will perform that request and bring your API down. Okay, so we have to handle that issue. So let's go into our game service, and this is failing right here. I'm sure of that. But the easiest fix you can do here is just to catch the error and return undefined. If anything went wrong, well, sorry, my friend, you're not getting your game. Okay. And for our case, I hope that's gonna be enough. Yeah, it is. Okay, so only 14 minutes, that's good. That's how you can write your own guard with some kind of external service. And now we're making sure that our interceptor isn't even called. So close that. So if I'm gonna just, we have the 3 here and some ID here. If I'm gonna change it to, let's say 12, that's not gonna, oops. Oh yeah, no. That's not gonna create any entries in our media, okay? So that's how you can protect yourself from some kind of strange requests. That was a shorter one. Thank you for that. I'm gonna carry on working on our game Epic Games or UI. In the next episode, we'll probably take a look at the front-end part and start working on uploading the files from front-end application. So I'll see you there. Oh, and let me just smart about it, and you can find the code at the using custom guards. Yep, I'm sending it to the repo right now. Okay, so I guess I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.